everybody, this is Michelle Fox and welcome back to The Simple Quilter. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these darling throw pillows for your house, and these are using holiday fabrics. I'm also going to be sharing 4 tips for making pillows that will help your pillows look more professional, and if you watch to the very end I'm going to give you just a quick tip on pillow storage. Before we get started on the project, I want to mention the quilt behind me. I always like to tell you a little bit about the quilts that I display behind me. This is a quilt that I made back in 1995. I think it was called the Cottage Sampler. This quilt was pieced by me and hand quilted by my mother. So I'm going to step aside and show you the quilt. You're going to need your basic sewing supplies like your sewing machine, your rotary cutter, your ruler, your mat, scissors, those basic supplies. But in addition to that, you're going to need some materials. So here are the basic supplies that you're going to need. You're going to need 2 coordinating fabrics, and these are cut 18 by the width of the fabric. So they're cut selvage to selvage, 18 inches wide. I just love this fall fabric here. So cute, and the pumpkins to coordinate with that. This really helps me. This is a hot ruler put out by Clover, and it just really helps me get nice, even kind of hems. So that will be a link will be provided to that below. You'll need some coordinating buttons. Now the first pillows that I made, I just dug in my button stash and got some out, but I did purchase these from Hobby Lobby and they were on sale. I use pearl cotton to sew my buttons on, simply because it's thicker. You can use regular thread, but you might want to choose a coordinating thread. Now, this is tip number 1 for having more professional looking pillows. You want to be sure to use a pillow form that's filled with polyfill. There are some down alternatives and those pillows are softer and more squishy, but I like those filled with polyfill because it gives your pillow a firmer look, and the pillow case that you make is a little bit tighter, and I think it just looks better. Now this is a 20-inch pillow, but for the pillows I've used the 18-inch pillow form. And there's also a link listed below for these. Now the first thing you want to do, you want to decide which one's going to be your main piece and which one's going to be your side piece. So in this pillow, this is the main piece, this is the side piece. So on this pillow, this is going to be my main piece, and this is going to be my side piece. Okay, so we're starting with 2 pieces of fabric that are cut 18 inches, and then you have the width of your fabric from selvage to selvage. So be sure that that's cut right at 18 inches and that the sides are even. Then we're going to start cutting the main piece first. And you're going to have to be careful if your print is directional. You want to be sure to keep that, make sure you're cutting correctly. So I want to be sure my trucks are right side up, so I'm going to keep track of that while I'm making this. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the selvages off. I do not use selvages when I am in my projects. I cut those off. Alright, now we're going to need to cut 2 pieces of this fabric. The first one we're going to cut is going to be 16 inches by the 18 that it already has been cut. So we're just going to cut this 16 inches. So there's my first front piece. That was the main front piece. And then for the back piece, we are going to need a 13 by 18. I'm gonna have to change that blade. Okay, so this is the side piece, and I've cut the selvage off, and I need to cut 2 pieces for this. I need to cut a piece that is 10 by 18. This is for the front. And then I need to cut a piece that is 13 by 18 for the back piece. Okay, so I just want to be sure to review the size of pieces with you. For the side piece, you need a 10 by 18 inch piece, and then you need a 13 by 18 inch piece. Then for the main part, you need a piece that is 16 by 18, and then for the back you need a piece that is 13 by 18. Now you could make the back piece the same, so you would just need 2 13 by 18 pieces that are the same color. I just like mine to line up. Let me show you. So here's the front, and then I like the back to line up with that. That's why I've cut the pieces different. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to adjoin these 2 pieces together. So we're going to be working on this piece right here. So I just kind of lay the fabrics out like I'm going to put them together. So this is the side that I'm going to put a little kind of a hem in. So what I'm going to do, and this is the Clover Hot Ruler. You can press this. That's why I like this. It's just really easy to use. I'm just going to fold this up to 1 inch. And then I'm going to press that and just create a really nice crease there. Move it down and do the same thing here. I just love using that hot press ruler. Okay, then I'm going to fold this back on itself just like this. And I'm just going to press it. Okay, I'm going to set that to the side for just a minute. Now here's my main piece, and I'm going to do the same thing to this side. And this is where you have to be careful that you're going to be putting the little hem in the right side. So you just want to put your fabric out there just like you're going to do it, and then you're going to do it on the right hand side of that fabric. So be sure you've got the right hand side. And I'm just going to repeat that same process with this piece of fabric. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is how to line these up and create this and attach the 2 pieces together. Now these are both, this is 1 inch and this is 1 inch. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay that right on top of each other. Right on top of each other and pin it. And this is the second tip. This is tip number 2, and it's just, I'm going to sew a straight seam right down there and another line of stitching right down here. And that will just give that a more professional look. I think you can maybe see it right here. I think that just looks very neat and clean. So that's tip number 2 for more professional looking pillows. And I'm just going to take this to the machine. I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch from the edge there. Then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to use this edge for 1/8 of an inch there. And then I'll be back. Now as you can see, those are my 2 lines going right down there. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to trim this down now to 18 inches. Now some of you may think this is a little wasteful, but this is how I like to do it. I like to have a nice clean edge to work with, and I want this side piece to be right at 6.5 inches. So I'm just going to trim this off. And then this little piece will go right there for my dog beds. Now I want my pillow to be 18 inches, and I already know it's measuring 18 that way, and I'm going to trim a little bit off on this edge. I like to do that so that my edges are nice and neat and my pillow is right at 18 inches square. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add my little buttons. I just love these little buttons. And I'm just going to kind of, you can eyeball them, or you could use a ruler if you'd like to help get a little bit better spacing. I just really kind of like to eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and so once I have the little buttons where I want them, then I just mark them where I want to sew them on. And then I'm just going to hand sew these on, and I will be right back. Okay, so here's the front piece. I've got the buttons sewed on. So here are 13 by 18 pieces for the 2 back pieces. And what we're going to do is we're going to put another little hem in here to give it a more professional look. Now these are only going to be 1/2 inch. Now this is important. If you want these right side up on the back, you got to be sure you put the hem on the left side. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this. We'll start with the pumpkin. So here, this time I'm only going to come up just 1/2 inch. I'm just going to press that. And we only need to do this to one side because the other side will be in the seam of the pillow when we sew. Okay. Fold this back on itself. Press that nice and flat. Okay, set that one to the side. Now we need to do the same here. And so on the back it needs to be this side. Now if you don't have a directional fabric, or if you're using the same piece for the back, you don't have to be quite so particular or quite so careful. Now, the tip number 3 for the professional looking pillow is that this is an 18-inch square and I'm using an 18-inch pillow. And again, the first tip was use a pillow insert with polyfill. So your third tip is to be sure to use an 18-inch form. You don't need to go bigger or smaller, just the same size as the front of your pillow. Now what I'm going to do next, again, I'm just going to run 2 lines of stitching on both sides, on both pieces here. And again, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so here's the front of the pillow, and what I'm going to do is I'm first going to lay my front piece for the back right up against this seam, right there. Because when on the back of the pillow, I want it to line up right up against there. Okay, so I'm going to line these up right there. Because on the back side, I want it to line up right there. Okay? So I'm going to line that up right there. Then the second piece, I'm going to line up right against there, and I'm just going to start pinning. Now if you'll notice on the front, I'm going to have to trim off a little bit, and I always make it a little bit bigger so that I can trim that off. Now this side won't need to be trimmed off, but I always trim off that one side simply because I want to be sure these get lined up. Okay, so I'm just going to pin this all the way around, and I'm going to trim this part off, and then I'll be right back. Okay, now here is the fourth tip for more professional looking pillows. So what you're going to need to do, we're going to sew a 1/2 inch of seam all the way around. So we are doing that. But here at the corner, instead of going clear out to the corner 1/2 inch, you're going to come in 1 inch. I've measured 1 inch, and I'm going to make a point. And then out here, anywhere from 5 to 7 inches, you're going to start tapering in to that little dot right there. And then taper out here to the line. And the reason you're going to do that is to prevent dog ears or these pointy floppy ears from occurring on your pillow. And I'll show you what I mean by that in the next picture. Okay, so if you sew these, if you do that, your pillow is going to have a much flatter appearance as seen in this second picture. So that was tip number 4. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew on this inner line. Over here I'm going to the inner point, tapering it out, and I'm going to sew the entire pillow up. Okay, so I sewed all around the edges, and since this is an envelope style pillow, I don't have to worry about any of that. But to make the points easier to turn, I'm just going to cut close to that little corner but not through it. Just a little bit more, and I'm going to do that to all of the corners. You definitely don't want to cut into your stitched line. Okay, and then all we need to do is to turn this pillow right side out. And what I like to do, I just like to fold it on that line just like that. Hold it to make a little point, and then that corner just pops right out. I'm going to finish with these corners and put the pillow form in and show you the final look. Okay, so I'm going to got that insert in there. Gonna make sure everything's laying smooth across there. Smooth across there. Corners are all pointed out. And there you go. Super cute pillow for decorating for the holidays. Okay, so before we go, I'm going to share my last tip with you, and that is my storage tip for pillows. So instead of buying, 4 or 5 pillow forms, just use one pillow form, make all your pillows that size, and then all you have to store is the pillow case. So instead of storing the pillow, all the pillows, you're just going to have to store the case. So that was my last tip that I said I would provide. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, share with a friend, and as always, leave a comment below. I love to get the comments and I try to reply to each and every one. So until next time, have fun quilting.